Now we move forward and move to the next. This one. Yes. Give me 2 seconds only. Okay. Item 8. A report of the evaluation body on its work in 2021. Version 13. Okay. We now come to the item 8. Report of the evaluation body on its work in 2021, which will retain our attention for some time. Before starting, I would like to invite the chairperson of the evaluation body, Ms. Lubika Wolanska from Slovakia, and its vice chairperson, Mr. Pier Luigi Petrillo from Italy, to join us on the podium. I'm told that its rapporteur, Mr. Nigel Encalada from Belize, is joining us online. So thank you and greetings to you all. May I ask the Secretariat to present this item to the committee. Mr. Curtis, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. So as we come to item 8, I'll be a little bit brief, but just to explain how the item is structured. The evaluation body for the 2021 cycle was established by the committee at its 15th session, which was held last year online, as you will remember, and that was in order to evaluate nominations to the urgent safeguarding list, which include nominations to the urgent safeguarding list combined with an international assistance request, which are under item 8A. They also include nominations to the representative list, item 8B, proposals to the register of good safeguarding practices, item 8C, as well as requests for international assistance which are greater than 100,000, item 8D. I wish to inform the committee that 6 files have been withdrawn by the submitting states, and in this session the committee is therefore asked to examine 54 files over the course of the next 3 days. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2021 cycle was once again characterized by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, which required the evaluation body to adapt its working methodology to an online modality. Building on the experience of last year, I'm pleased to say that the evaluation body was able to conduct its work in an effective and efficient manner, aided largely by a dedicated online monitoring interface which had been developed in the previous cycle. However, that does not mean it was without challenges. The evaluation body this year was asked to evaluate the highest number of files it has ever evaluated to date. This required intense preparatory work by its members to successfully reach consensus on all of the 60 files, and I wish to commend the evaluation body for their efforts and dedication to their work. I believe the rapporteur will speak more on the challenges of this year's cycle in his presentation later today, but please allow me to explain how the debates of the report of the evaluation body will be organized. Mr. Encalada, the rapporteur, will present a brief oral report on key cross-cutting issues identified by the body during the 2021 cycle. Following that oral report, the floor will be open for specific questions that committee members may wish to address to the evaluation body on its report. The committee will then evaluate all individual files as per decision 15-10 taken last year. Nominations were foreseen to be examined in English alphabetical order, starting with the files of states whose names began with the letter X under each mechanism. However, following the decision to hold the session fully online and in consultation with the Bureau, the order of files was revised on 13th of December to take into account the time differences between Paris and certain submitting states. The files to be examined have thus been grouped according to region with a view to facilitate the participations of delegations concerned. Allow me to underline that the timing of examination for each file is of course bound to be modified somewhat depending on the speed and length of debates. All nominations, proposals and requests will be the subject of a brief presentation by the chairperson of the evaluation body, who will give a succinct explanation justifying the recommendation of the body. The general debate on this item will continue after the evaluation of all individual files, at which point the committee will move to the adoption of the overall decision 16.8. I hope I have explained clearly, Mr. Chairperson, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Curtis, for this detailed explanation. Due to the tight schedule and in order to allow sufficient time for the committee to discuss specific files, we agreed that we would adopt the same working method for the organization of our work as in previous years. In this regard, a message was sent by the Secretariat to all states parties on 3rd December, as you know. Committee members wishing to discuss or amend specific draft decisions or nominations to the lists, proposals for the register of good safeguarding practices, or the request for international assistance, were invited to inform the Secretariat by today 8 a.m. Paris time. I would like to ask the Secretariat to tell us how many requests have been received in this regard. And this is merely a matter of organization, but it is nevertheless all the more important this year due to the hybrid modality for this session. I wish to reassure members of the committee that this procedure does not prevent any committee member from taking the floor on any decision if it wishes so. So in addition, as I mentioned yesterday under item 2, it is my understanding that committee members wish to maintain the tacit working agreement, first put in place at the 12th session of the committee in 2017, year 2017, whereby committee members agreed to refrain from inscribing files for which the evaluation body recommended not to inscribe the nomination, and those for which more than 2 criteria have not been satisfied. So it's very clear. So this working agreement used to be referred to as the gentleman's agreement. But the terminology has been adjusted following the recommendation of the open-ended working group to use gender-sensitive and inclusive language. Why only gentlemen? Right. So I believe that this agreement is of utmost importance to maintain the credibility of the work of the committee and the evaluation process. So I also note that some states have chosen to withdraw their nomination files, which I understand to be in the spirit of the working agreement, and for which I would like to thank them. Allow me now to explain the working method for the adoption of the draft decisions. In principle, for draft decisions for which we have not received any amendments or requests for debate, we will adopt them as a whole. With regards to draft decisions for which amendments were submitted, however, we will adopt them paragraph by paragraph, as we have done it yesterday. In all cases, the submitting state will have a total of 2 minutes after adoption to deliver a statement or show a video clip as customary. In case of multinational files, the time limit is 3 minutes. I hope that we can, in this way, save time and conduct our discussions in an optimal manner. Another aspect that I want to clarify is how I intend to proceed with amendments to the draft decisions on nominations. In particular, in light of the committee decisions 11.8 regarding the clarifications on the decision-making process concerning inscription, selection, or approval of nominations, proposals, and requests. Taking into account our past decision and practice, I would like to apply the following working method as a way forward for the present examination of nominations, proposals, and requests under item 8. In accordance with paragraph 14 of the Rules of Procedure of the committee, my duty as chairperson is the smooth conduct of the proceedings and the maintenance of order. So this will constitute my main line of action during our debates. So as is reflected in decision 11.8, I will ensure that the spirit of consensus and international cooperation prevails throughout the debates and decision-making process of the committee. It is also important to remind ourselves that the draft decisions proposed to us have been prepared by the evaluation body, a consultative body created to assist us in an in-depth examination of the nominations. We elect its members in light of their expertise, and therefore, our debates and our decision-making process shall demonstrate respect towards the expertise and diligent work of the evaluation body. When amendments are put forward, and once again in conformity with the decision 11.8, I will seek to establish consensus through appreciating both supporting arguments and objections to those amendments under consideration. And to this end, when an amendment is proposed, I will first determine whether it receives an active relative support from the committee. This means that I will be looking for the expressions of support from at least 1/3 of the committee members. In the case of an objection by a committee member to this amendment, I would then seek the active broad support from the majority of the committee members. So I reiterate, the smooth conduct of our debates is of prime importance to me. Allow me to emphasize that our decision-making process has an impact on the credibility of not only the work of this committee, but also of the convention as a whole. It is therefore our duty and our responsibility as members of the committee to keep these considerations in mind throughout our debates for a smooth function of this entire process. So, dear colleagues, I wish now to recall several other important points about the procedure of our debates under this item, which are the rules and working methods of the committee that I kindly ask you to respect. During the general debates under item 8, priority is given to committee members. But I will also give the floor to state parties, non-members of the committee, and other observers if time permits, if time allows. Under the examination of specific nominations to the lists, proposals to the register, and requests for international assistance, participation in the debates is limited to committee members. So in other words, submitting states non-member to the committee shall not take the floor when the committee examines individual nominations. The exception to this rule is given under Rule 22.4 of the Rules of Procedure of the committee. Submitting states may take the floor to reply the specific questions and to provide information in reply to questions raised by committee members, if any. At the same time, please note that the same rule specifies that submitting states, whether a member of the committee or not, shall not speak to advocate their own nominations. So I remind members and observers that there are large numbers of people following our work through live webcast throughout the world or through the news media. And it is therefore important for us to keep as closely as possible to our schedule. So before opening the floor, may I first ask the Secretariat to confirm how many requests for debate have been received by the Secretariat. Over to you, to the Secretariat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The Secretariat has received requests for opening the debate and draft amendments on the following three nominations: 8A.3, on the nomination submitted by Mali, and the amendment submitted by Togo; 8B.15, the nomination submitted by India and the amendment submitted by Japan; and 8B.22, the nomination submitted by Malaysia with the amendment submitted by China. May I ask those states who also wish to co-sponsor to please contact the state submitting the amendment rather than sending to the Secretariat, so that the state submitting the amendment may resend the co-sponsors if they so require. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Curtis. The floor is now open for questions on the organization, procedure, and working method for this item. Now I give the floor to you. Yes, I think Azerbaijan has come forward. Please, over to you, Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope you hear me well and you see me well as well. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for your introductory remarks on this agenda item. I do have a rather general statement on the report of the evaluation body. I hope I can go ahead with this statement. This is rather a statement of a general nature.
Yeah, I think after the evaluation body report, we can discuss that. So thank you very much. And now I would like to invite Sweden. Over to you, Sweden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. I just received an information from my computer that I have an unstable Wi-Fi connection, but I hope you hear and see me well. Anyway, good day to all. Sweden would like to start with thanking the evaluation body for this excellent report, and yet another qualified and careful work has been carried out under the exceptional conditions we are still subject to. The evaluation body's expertise is the core of the convention's credibility.
Just to interrupt you, after the evaluation body report,
yes,
you can submit that, please. Okay, you understand, right? You will get the opportunity after the evaluation body report. Yeah. So now I invite. Is it about the procedure or is it about the report?
Excuse me? Shall I proceed?
Yeah, if it is about the report, you can do after the evaluation body's report. If it's not, you can now proceed.
Yes, thank you. Well,
Yes,
it was
yes.
a very minor comment from the start, but during these, it's on the working methods, a few words. And we just like to say that we already see that some member states have followed the decision by the Bureau on circulating proposals for amendments to the decisions in advance. And we're very happy to see that, because we see that this will ensure an efficient working method of our committee, which has also already been said. I'm sorry to repeat that, but it's important. We thank all parties in advance for doing just that, when wished for, of course, sending in the amendments as early as possible. Adding to these comments and how we work together, the continuing working after the established working method is central, and of course it's actually central to the efficiency of the meeting. So, and in the same at the same time, Sweden would like to take the opportunity to thank the state parties that already have withdrawn their files for that reason. That have been very much been discussed earlier, not having more than three criteria, not having less than fulfilling three criteria. We thank them, and at the same time would like to welcome them back in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And if it is for the report, please, you have the time later. But if it is for the working method, yes, now, only for the working method. Please go ahead. And I would like to invite Azerbaijan for that purpose. Azerbaijan, over to you. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. Please go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. As my colleague mentioned, we would like to make a general report regarding the work of the evaluation body for the period of 2021.
No, regarding regarding the report, you can ask your comments later. But if it is the working method, yes, please go ahead now with the working method.
It's not about working methods, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, I will come back to you. Don't worry. Okay. Now I would like to invite Sweden. Brazil? Yeah, Brazil, I think. Brazil, please.
No, they've lowered the hand. They lowered the hand.
Okay. Right.
No sound.
I think now we got the report, all right? So now I would now like to give the floor to the rapporteur.
No sound, Mr. Chair.
Begban?
Yes, not hearing at all. No sound.
1 minute. We have no sound.
Yeah, I think time is
No
passing,
sound, okay.
but for the report, we will give the chance later. So, yeah?
No, there's no sound. They don't hear you.
Oh, my God.
So let's stop, have a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Oh, it's okay now. We
No,
can
the
hear
sound,
you.
the sound is
Can
back.
you hear me?
Yes,
Can?
yes,
Yes.
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay, okay. Technology is like that. Any moment it might fail, but don't worry. We move forward. Thank you very much. So then, I would now like to give the floor to the rapporteur of the evaluation body for the 2021 cycle. Mr. Encalada, the floor is yours now. Yeah, Mr. Encalada.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, I can hear you very well. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you, wherever you are in the world and in whatever time zone. I'm pleased to present the report of the evaluation body at this 16th Intergovernmental Committee meeting Indeed, it is a summary of the more extensive report, which you will find on the online platform under agenda item 8. As the Secretariat had explained earlier, the body was established in the 15th session of the committee and is comprised of 12 members, with 6 of its experts representing states parties who are non-members of the committee, and another 6 members representing accredited non-governmental organizations. The report of the evaluation body consists of 5 working documents, namely 4 documents listed under agenda items 8A, 8B, 8C, and 8D, which concern nominations to the urgent safeguarding list, as well as combined nominations for inscription and requests for international assistance, nominations for inscription to the representative list, proposals to the Register of Good Safeguarding Practices, and requests for international assistance greater than $100,000, respectively. The 5th component is a general report which deals with general observations, working methods of the evaluation body, and cross-cutting issues, some of which I will now summarize. Given the high number of nomination files for the 31st received for the 31st March 2020 deadline, and in consideration of paragraph 34 of the operational directives, which outlines the priorities to be applied to the examination of files, the evaluation body was asked to evaluate 60 files, which is 10 more than was foreseen. This was indeed an unprecedented request to which the members of the evaluation body agreed in consideration of the desires of the international community. As seen in the graphic, of the 60 files, 6 concerned nominations to the urgent safeguarding list, 48 concerned nominations to the representative list, 5 concerned proposals to the Register of Good Safeguarding Practices, and 1 concerned a standalone request for international assistance over $100,000. In the context of the ongoing pandemic, the evaluation body meetings were once again convened online. The first meeting was held on March 4th and 5th, 2021, at which time the Secretariat conducted an orientation for the EB members on its work, while the Chair, Vice Chair, and Rapporteur were also elected. The second meeting was held from June 7th to the 12th, 2021, over a period of 6 days for 3 hours each day, and involved deliberations and arriving at consensus decisions for each of the nomination files. In terms of the evaluation body's working methods, the following principles were applied and exercised. In order to ensure neutrality, members of the evaluation body did not participate and were not involved in any way in the evaluation or deliberation of files from their country of nationality or from countries where their non-governmental organization is based. As per the previous year, the evaluation work of the body was facilitated through the setup of an online interface by the Secretariat, which allowed individual members to review each file and its supporting materials and to prepare written assessments in advance of the June meeting. In so doing, EB members were keen to evaluate each file on its own merits as per the information provided within the dossier. In its deliberations, the body was guided by the text of the convention, operational directives, as well as by decisions of previous bodies. Even so, it is important to note that the members of the evaluation body agreed that its recommendations would not be bound by past recommendations, especially where its accumulated experience and jurisprudence led the body to arrive at a different assessment from past evaluation bodies. On the matter of proper and extensive discourse in its evaluation work, the body recognizes the advantages of meeting in person and for longer periods of time. However, the online interface is a feature which has its own merits, one of which is that it allowed each member to look at the assessments prepared by their colleagues and which helped inform the decisions, the discussions, and consensus building. As per the previous cycle, the EB commends the Secretariat and supports the continued use of the online interface for future cycles. In this cycle, the evaluation body also had the opportunity to evaluate 2 files under the combined mechanism for inscription on the list of intangible cultural heritage in need of urgent safeguarding and request for international assistance to support the implementation of the proposed safeguarding plan. To maintain consistency with the procedure followed in previous years, the nomination file and international assistance request were evaluated separately. With respect to multinational nominations, the EB was also pleased to note the improved overall quality of multinational nominations. It was clear that states parties had coordinated their efforts and dedicated some time to the drafting of safeguarding measures on various levels. However, in one instance, the EB encountered a scenario where 5 of the 12 members of the evaluation body were required to leave the discussion because the file was submitted by their country of origin or by a country where their non-governmental organization was based. As more states seek to submit multinational nominations or seek to become parties to existing inscriptions, there's a likelihood that in the future, a majority of the EB's members may be prevented from participating in the evaluation of particular nominations. This requires some consideration. As you are aware, this is the second cycle for which the dialogue process had been utilized. The evaluation body used the dialogue process in more cases in this cycle compared to the previous cycle. 15 files benefited from the dialogue process for a total of 22 questions, including 11 nominations to the representative list, 2 nominations to the urgent safeguarding list, including 1 with a combined request for international assistance, 1 proposal to the Register of Good Practice, Safeguarding Practices, and 1 standalone request for international assistance. Unlike in the case of the referral option, the dialogue was limited to questions requiring a specific response. Dialogue was only used when there was a minor lack of information or a confusing statement, which the evaluation body considered could be clarified through a simple question and answer exchange with the submitting states. The questions prepared by the evaluation body were sent by the Secretariat to the concerned states on June 25th, 2021, with a requirement to provide a response within 4 weeks. While the majority of states parties took advantage of the dialogue process, the EB was at times disappointed that in some cases the opportunity was missed. There's an opportunity to provide clarification to the questions posed, especially where there's already an investment of time and resources by the EB, the Secretariat, and the states parties themselves. The evaluation body convened online for the 3rd time from September 14th to the 17th, 2021, to finalize its recommendations on the 15 files concerned with the dialogue process and to further validate the draft decisions for each file. The resulting 60 draft decisions presented in the 5 respective reports thus represent the consensus decisions of the evaluation body. As per the graphic, 23% of the files were recommended for referral, 2% of the files were not recommended for inscription, and 75% of the files were recommended for inscription to either the urgent safeguarding list or representative list, selection to the Register of Good Safeguarding Practices, or were approved for international assistance. On the matter of referrals, the EB wishes to emphasize that such decisions were not considered as a judgment on the element itself. Indeed, the body recognizes that state parties and the concerned communities, groups, and individuals go to great lengths to prepare these files and must be commended. Even so, a referral indicates that criteria for inscription were not satisfied as required by the convention and its operational directives, and rather serves as an encouragement to improve on the file and the information that is presented therein. Notwithstanding, the evaluation body observed an overall improvement in the quality of the nominations submitted for examination during the 2021 cycle. This improvement was noticeable both in the files submitted for the first time, as well as in the nomination files that were submitted after a previous referral. It was also observed that in some instances, information was not found in its appropriate place, but elsewhere. Even so, the members of the evaluation body worked fairly and examined the files in their totality and in consideration of each criterion, and did not prejudice a nomination in these cases. However, to facilitate its work, the evaluation body reminds state parties to provide the information requested in the appropriate place within the nomination form. Similarly, the evaluation body also underscores the importance of the accompanying nomination video and how it is an opportunity to enrich the information provided in the file and enhance the overall understanding of the element. Some files featured videos which were well done, while others were not as coherent. Submitting states are therefore encouraged to take advantage of this opportunity. While nominations are submitted by submitting states, the evaluation body also noted that in a few files, the information provided suggested a top-down approach in their preparation. State parties are reminded that mechanisms for the widest possible participation of the communities, groups, and individuals in the preparation and implementation of safeguarding measures, safeguarding plans, and in the preparation of the file itself help to enhance the assessment of the file, and therefore such mechanisms should be pursued. On the related matter of free, prior, and informed consent, the free, prior, and informed consent of the communities concerned is also essential to the fair evaluation of the files. Communities, groups, and individuals should be duly informed about the particular list to which their nominations or proposals are being made. The relationship between the signatories providing consent and the nominated element should also be clear in the file. Letters of consent should be dated and current. The use of standardized letters of consent is discouraged, as it does not suggest a participatory approach to procuring the free, prior, and informed consent of the concerned communities, groups, and individuals. On the issue of gender roles, states parties are reminded that a more thorough description of gender roles throughout the file would be beneficial. So, for example, if an element is practiced or used by women, it is expected that women should also provide their consent, and so on. A brief word on criterion R2. In the past, if states parties made an effort to fill in the criterion about how inscription would enhance the visibility of ICH in general, the criterion was accepted. Thus, in the current cycle, the evaluation body also agreed to accept the criterion if an attempt was made to respond to the questions, I should say. For this reason, the evaluation body did not refer or reject any file solely on the basis of criterion R2, even if a file was clearly deficient in its response to this criterion. In the evaluations of R3, R5, and U5, the members of the evaluation body were more tolerant when dealing with these criteria. The body was guided in its examinations by the understanding that a variety of inventories might exist and that some might yet be in progress. However, the nominated element must already have been included in an inventory at the time of nomination. In some files, the role of the communities, groups, and individuals in inventory making and updating of inventories was not clearly explained. Insufficient or non-existent explanation creates doubt about the role of the communities, groups, and individuals concerned with the element. States parties are encouraged to ensure community participation and provide clear explanations in this regard. Regarding the intangible cultural heritage and the environment, the evaluation body was pleased to examine several files that featured this connection. As an additional step, states parties are encouraged to take note of safeguarding measures or plans and how they may account for the protection of the environment and for the sustainability of natural resources associated with the element. The nomination of elements connected to UNESCO World Heritage sites was also a feature of this year's cycle. Indeed, inscription may be mutually beneficial for their safeguarding and protection. However, states are discouraged from submitting nominations to the list of the 2003 convention solely for the purpose of promoting World Heritage sites. Also in this cycle, several files focus on nominating elements linked to commercial activity and income generation. For this reason, state parties should seek balance between the social, cultural, and economic functions of the element, endeavor to mitigate against unintended consequences that might come from inscription, guard against over-commercialization and possible negative impacts from tourism, and more importantly, ensure the element's viability. Finally, this year's cycle was not without its challenges for the evaluation body. The proper and fair examination of 60 files is a major undertaking, and the members of the evaluation body made a concerted effort to oblige the wishes of the international community. Notwithstanding the successful completion of the exercise, the evaluation body is concerned that being asked to consistently evaluate this many files under the current structure might run the risk of jeopardizing the rigor, integrity, and attention required for the successful completion of this important undertaking into the future. In closing, the members of the body, we express our gratitude for the opportunity to participate in the evaluation process and wish you all the best with the work ahead of safeguarding our intangible cultural heritage of humanity. The draft decisions for the files under the 2021 cycle will now shortly be presented by the chair of the evaluation body, Ms. Lubica Volanska, and Vice Chair, Mr. Pierluigi Petrillo. I thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nkalara, for the long description of your effort. And I again would like to thank you very much for your presentation. And you raised several critical and relevant issues, which will no doubt inform the debate of the committee. Hearing your presentation and having the report of the evaluation body in front of us, I would like this opportunity to express our sincere appreciation to the 12 members of the body for managing to carry out your tasks, despite the global pandemic that continues to affect us, all of us. Thank you for your dedication and engagement to overcome this year's challenges and ensure that the convention could continue its work. Please know that the state parties and communities are truly grateful for your hard work, and I would like to thank you again. Let me now open the list of speakers for questions on the report of the evaluation body. This one? Okay. Yes, I think Azerbaijan. Yes. Yes, over to you, Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor. Would like to commend the evaluation body for its work in evaluating the files this year, and the Secretariat for having facilitated the work of the evaluation body in 2021 in the circumstances of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Azerbaijan notes that the evaluation body has opened the dialogue process on 15 files of the 2021 cycle, which shows that the mechanism introduced is indeed highly relevant and has allowed clarifying many issues the submitting states. The process is proving to be an effective mechanism of exchange between submitting states and the evaluation body. And we believe the committee should continue gaining experience in this area. Our delegation has taken note of the high number of files examined from states that didn't have a file evaluating in the previous 2020 cycle, the situation that didn't allow other files to be taken into consideration, especially multinational files. In this context, Azerbaijan does rely on the current efforts of reforming the listing mechanism to address the ongoing issue of priorities for the examination of the nomination files. Our delegation has noted that multiple issues have come up on the criteria R3 for the representative list and U3 for the urgent safeguarding list. We believe efforts in developing capacities of states in the regard to the elaboration of the safeguarding measures and community participation in their preparation should be further strengthened, possibly through the greater use by member states of the international assistance within the framework of the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund. Finally, overall, we believe that the Convention is now undergoing an important moment, which is the one of reform of this listing mechanisms. And we hope that many issues raised systematically by the evaluation body, including those of this year, will be duly addressed through these processes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, no, I will now invite Switzerland. Over to you, Switzerland.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'aimerais tout d'abord dire que le rapport de l'organe d'évaluation révèle la qualité du travail qui a été effectué par les experts, en particulier aussi si on prend en compte le contexte très compliqué de 2021 et les adaptations nécessaires pour les modalités de réunion. Donc, je voudrais tout d'abord vraiment remercier tous les experts et la Suisse remercie tous les experts pour leur engagement durant cette période exceptionnelle. Maintenant, l'organe d'évaluation nous a bien souligné qu'il fait face à un nombre important, un volume important de dossiers à traiter. 60 dossiers ont été mentionnés, 61 si on les prend tous en compte. Mais il faut souligner que l'organe d'évaluation est parvenu à fournir des analyses pertinentes et sur cette base-là, le comité peut prendre des décisions vraiment informées. Mais il me paraît vraiment important de prendre en compte ce qui nous a été maintenant aussi répété par l'organe d'évaluation, à savoir que si nous voulons garder la qualité de l'évaluation, nous sommes d'avis et la Suisse est d'avis qu'il est important de ne pas augmenter encore ce volume. Je crois que le message a été clair, que nous sommes arrivés là à une limite si on veut conserver la qualité de l'évaluation et pour nous c'est essentiel. On peut aussi observer une amélioration globale de la qualité des dossiers présentés avec 75%, 75% des candidatures recommandées pour une inscription. Ça représente une augmentation par rapport au cycle précédent. Nous avons aussi noté que parmi ces recommandations positives, plusieurs dossiers avaient fait l'objet d'un renvoi préalable. Nous sommes fermement convaincus qu'une proposition de renvoi n'est pas à considérer comme un échec, mais au contraire, c'est un encouragement à améliorer la qualité du dossier et c'est donc une bonne chose. Les évaluations fournissent à ce titre d'ailleurs des indications et des orientations pertinentes pour tous les États qui soumettent des dossiers. Nous reconnaissons vraiment l'expertise de l'organe d'évaluation et dans ce contexte, la Suisse s'engagera durant le processus d'examen des candidatures pour que ces recommandations soient maintenues et la Suisse respectera l'accord de travail, le Working Agreement. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite Czechia, but before that I would like to read the list who are willing to share the ideas. Czechia, followed by Brazil, followed by Sri Lanka, followed by Japan, followed by Poland, and then the Netherlands and Kuwait, and non-committee members are also there with us, Slovakia. So please, I will allow you to take the floor in this order. So therefore, China is also with us, being a committee member, Now, first allow the committee members to take the floor. Therefore, now I would like to invite Shekia. Over to you, Shekia.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Notre délégation voudrait remercier l'organe d'évaluation pour son analyse minutieuse des candidatures sur tous les mécanismes de la Convention et pour son travail qui a dû être particulièrement fastidieux cette année. Le rapport montre que l'organe d'évaluation a essayé de maintenir un équilibre dans l'examen des critères et des questions dans leur ensemble et n'a utilisé les recommandations du renvoi qu'après une analyse approfondie des candidatures. Car il convient de garder à l'esprit que l'évaluation se fonde sur les informations contenues dans les documents soumis et non sur l'importance de l'élément lui-même. Nous voyons dans la proposition de révision des candidatures un moyen de les améliorer afin qu'elles puissent être constituées avec tous les détails pertinents, ce qui a toujours un effet positif sur l'élément lui-même, sa sauvegarde et sa présentation. Nous apprécions le fait que même les propositions d'inscription non recommandées pour l'inscription cette année ont été évaluées de manière constructive afin que les États soumissionnaires puissent satisfaire aux critères d'inscription, donc aux conditions qui s'appliquent de manière égale à tous, afin de rendre le système viable et équitable. Le fait qu'il soit possible de remplir les conditions d'inscription est démontré cette année non seulement par le nombre de propositions recommandées pour l'inscription, mais aussi par le nombre de propositions identifiées par l'organe d'évaluation comme de bons exemples et une bonne inspiration pour de futures propositions. L'organe d'évaluation est un organe consultatif du comité qui est bien entendu souverain dans ses décisions. Cependant, notre travail devrait se fonder sur son évaluation. C'est d'ailleurs pourquoi nous l'avons choisi comme organe consultatif, pour nous faciliter la prise de décision. Le comité fait également appel à ses propres capacités d'experts, mais il ne serait pas efficace d'utiliser les services de l'organe d'évaluation en effectuant une évaluation tout aussi détaillée par nous-mêmes. En outre, les tendances de ces dernières années montrent que les recommandations positives sont toujours soutenues par le comité, tandis que les recommandations négatives ont tendance à être contredites. Afin de maintenir la cohérence de nos processus décisionnels, nous utilisons l'accord du travail, mais nous devrions également analyser soigneusement les raisons qui ont conduit l'organe d'évaluation à recommander un renvoi pour les nominations qui ont un ou deux critères non satisfaits pour prendre la bonne décision pour la meilleure sauvegarde des éléments du PCI. Ceci étant dit, nous avons écouté les préoccupations du groupe africain ce matin par rapport au renvoi de certains dossiers cette année et nous en sommes sensibles. Bien que les inscriptions sur les listes ne devraient pas être au cœur de notre convention, nous pensons que la situation puisse être améliorée grâce au renforcement de capacités, l'assistance internationale, meilleure implication des ONG et les facilitateurs ou par d'autres procédures que nous pouvons identifier à l'avenir. En conclusion, notre délégation tient à dire qu'elle est impressionnée par la diversité du PCI dont l'inscription aux différentes listes de la Convention est proposée, ainsi que par la portée des mesures de sauvegarde proposées. Nous remercions l'organe d'évaluation pour ses recommandations concernant les effets négatifs potentiels sur la commercialisation excessive et de l'augmentation du tourisme sur les communautés, l'élément lui-même et son environnement. Nous espérons garder la qualité de son analyse en n'augmentant pas le nombre de dossiers à traiter. Merci beaucoup de votre attention, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite Brazil. Over to you, Brazil.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Comme c'est la première fois que je prends la parole, je voudrais vous féliciter pour votre élection et pour cette conduite si fluide et amicale de nos travaux. Après toutes les réunions du bureau pendant cette année, c'est un plaisir de vous retrouver maintenant à la présidence de la 16e session de notre convention. Monsieur le Président, nous voudrions d'abord remercier l'organe d'évaluation pour l'immense effort accompli et pour le compromis avec le besoin de la vie de notre convention, c'est-à-dire la nécessité d'évaluer un grand nombre de dossiers dans les difficiles conditions créées par la pandémie du Covid-19. Nous croyons que plusieurs observations faites par l'organe d'évaluation continueront à aider les États membres à perfectionner leur dossier de candidature ainsi que les mécanismes d'inscription dans le forum de discussion et dans les réunions du comité et de l'Assemblée générale, bien sûr. Le rapport de l'organe d'évaluation représente une sorte de thermomètre qui nous permet de savoir où il faut intervenir, quels sont les programmes de formation nécessaires, quelles sont les initiatives et les modalités de coopération indispensables pour les États membres. En somme, quelle est la route à suivre? Les questions se levaient ce matin pendant la réunion du bureau le confirment. Monsieur le Président, nous voudrions quand même profiter de cette opportunité pour réaffirmer encore une fois notre position en faveur d'un meilleur équilibre entre les listes de la Convention et surtout souligner que pour nous, la protection et la sauvegarde sont la principale mission de la Convention du patrimoine immatériel. L'inscription de nouveaux éléments est très importante et bienvenue, mais elle doit être accompagnée de mesures permanentes de sauvegarde, parce que nous savons qu'il peut arriver que certaines manifestations puissent être mises en danger d'un moment à l'autre. C'est le rôle de notre Convention de protéger et de sauvegarder pour maintenir vivante la richesse et la diversité du patrimoine culturel et matériel. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Brazil. And now I would like to invite Sri Lanka. Over to you, Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sri Lanka would like to thank the evaluation body for its excellent report and the rigorous and meticulous work undertaken by its 12 members under extremely difficult conditions. Our delegation highly respects the expertise of the evaluation body and the observations they have made on the files they have examined. We are also happy to hear that the dialogue process that was introduced 2 years ago after much discussion has benefited a considerable number of countries. There are recommendations to safeguard ICH from the threats of commercialization, overexploitation, and decontextualization are matters that have to be paid serious consideration, especially in the present context where national economies of most countries have been severely affected by the pandemic. However, this can be a challenging choice for many countries as the livelihoods of most of ICH practitioners have been badly affected due to the pandemic. Therefore, we are wondering whether or not we will have to reconsider where we are going to draw or redraw the lines between commercialization and non-commercialization, or over-exploitation and allowable exploitation, or permissible exploitation, or decontextualization and non-decontextualization. These are just for the consideration of the next evaluation body who will examine the files for the 22nd year. And thank you once again, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Sri Lanka. Thank you very much for that comments. Now I would like to invite Japan. Over to you, Japan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Japan would like to thank the evaluation body and the Secretariat for having evaluated 60 files on an exceptional basis under the constrained circumstances of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. We also appreciate the fact that the upstream dialogue process in its second year of full-fledged implementation is bearing fruit and resulted in positive recommendations in many cases. I understand, out of 15, we had 14 successful cases. And we also welcome the fact that 45 cases were recommended for inscription, which is 75% of the total files examined, compared to 58% in the previous year. And at the same time, we welcome the fact that there has been increased geographical diversity, especially in the register of good safeguarding practices. We acknowledge that there is still, unfortunately, there's still a large number of backlogs of proposals awaiting review. And many colleagues have pointed out that we shouldn't have more numbers of files to be examined by the evaluation body. So what can we do about that is still an issue. And therefore, it will be necessary to continue the discussion on the number of files, among other things, in the open-ended working group on the reflection of the listing mechanisms of the convention. Now, I would like to say a few things about what some African countries said earlier. We do understand the frustrations on the part of some African countries in the results, but at the same time, we have this committee has to give respect for the evaluation by the evaluation bodies. Otherwise, this system doesn't work. And at the same time, we have a question of what is called the working agreement or gentleman's agreement. So those things are still there. So as Czechia said earlier, what we can do is to look at the capacity building initiatives, international assistance. But and there again, as I heard that the ambassadors of Saudi Arabia and Kuwait mentioned that international assistance has already been allocated to African countries with a large number, 41%, according to Princess Haifa. So we have to look at what is going on there. And Ambassador of Kuwait, Adam, has made several suggestions. One was about facilitator, and the other one was a higher education university. But at the same time, I have an impression that we may be able to use international assistance for the formulation of actual files. Mr. Curtis clarified earlier that the requests, many of the requests from those countries are actually for the general design of the system in those countries. But at the same time, international assistance can be used and has been used for specific files. And by that way, we may be able to increase the success rate. By the way, as I said earlier, the upstream evaluation process does work. In the same way, international assistance can be used for the increase of files to be approved, to be recommended for instruction by the evaluation body. So that may be another way of looking at this. But in any case, I think we have to look at concrete steps to solve this problem. There's no magic. We have to think about what we can do under the current system. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Japan. And now I, please, dear delegates, committee members, and all the state parties, remember that all your questions be answered by our rapporteur, Mr. Enkalada. So, Mr. Enkalada, please ready if there is anything to answer. I will give that floor to Mr. Enkalada later, okay, after listening to all these countries. So now I would like to invite Poland. Over to you, Poland. Yes, I think we have only 20 minutes. Poland is not to be seen. Therefore, I go to Netherlands. The Netherlands, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My delegation would like to thank the evaluation body for its immense work and for its very clear and valuable report. The Netherlands has always stressed the importance to respect the evaluation of nomination files by the evaluation body. And we take note of the thematic issues which are mentioned in the report. We would like to highlight a few things. We are very happy and glad that the number of referrals has decreased. The dialogue mechanism has contributed to the accessibility of the lists. However, we are aware that there are still regions that are underrepresented, and it's important that we find ways forward to better representation. The quality of the nomination files has increased. We welcome this, and we would like to congratulate all the nominating states parties, and especially the communities, groups, and where applicable, individuals concerned. Several nomination files were referred because it was unclear how communities were involved. This is a big concern for us, since the involvement of communities on all possible aspects is the core spirit of the convention. We welcome the fact that the evaluation body has anticipated on the discussion on the listing mechanism by not referring a file when only criteria R2 is not fulfilled. The Netherlands is in favor of simplifying this criterion. Last but not least, the evaluation body addresses the point of extended nominations. We think it's important to show that some elements are widely and sometimes even worldwide practiced. For communities, it is very important to be able to join a file and to get acquainted and work together with communities in other countries around the world. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, the Netherlands. And next is Kuwait, followed by China. Over to you, Kuwait.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, we thank the evaluation body on its work, and it's difficult. But also, let me thank them for their transparency in the evaluation, and also for their transparency in showing us the obstacles that they're facing. Mr. Chair, let me tell you, what I look at this convention. This is, Mr. Chair, this convention since 2003. The objective of it is the safeguard, the living heritage, the intangible. So if we all agree, this is the objective. That's what we've been meeting for 16 years. That's what's, the whole mechanism, the whole process is to ensure to reach this outcome. So as a Kuwait, we believe, there is the three triangles: committee members, secretariats, evaluation body are tools. Once again, these are tools to reach our objectives. And unless we have, in a dynamic way, those tools should be dynamic, should change to accommodate this outcome, we will always have problems. We will have always issues. Since 2003, things changed dramatically. Since 2003, there were more awareness. We hear today we spend more than 8 million international assistance. For what? To promote these conventions. Obviously, automatically, we will have more numbers. Otherwise, we failed in our, promoting this convention. Second thing, if all files was not prescribed, that means we failed to promote the correct way of preparing the dossier and, helping the member state to have a great, clean, quality files. If it's increased, that means we help them, their capacity building. Mr. Chair, a few minutes ago, we decided, we approved decision 16-COM-70. What it says? It says, it says in the decision, notes with satisfaction that the majority of the international assistance go to group 5A. And at the end of the paragraph, the same thing, we encourage more member states. So, once we are, and we're all happy with clapping that, we approve that decision, obviously, automatically, that will increase the number of files. So let's have, let's have more agreed on the principle, unless all of us, we say, number of files, it's a tool, it's an outcome for things we're doing. Let's find the solution. Let's find the quality solution. Otherwise, we're going to go to square one. I see some members said, no, that's like a red line. Number of files, a red line. No, it's one number of files because of the activities that we brought, because we have more international assistance, because we have more promoting this convention. So I think members, Mr. Chair, it's time to think outside the box and to be more fluid, and also to thank again the government of Japan for opening that dialogue for us to find, solutions, and also the evaluation body for their reports to tell us, look, we have an issues, let's find a solution. But to say at the same way, we will have not a backlog. My issue, not that a backlog, my issue, Mr. Chair, the information in this backlog, after 8-9 years, they will be obsolete. then we'll be evaluating something on the paper that's not in the ground. Is that the convention all about? Just to have a quality evaluation on a document, but that information does not reflect on the ground because our lack of being, being more responsible and brave and saying, you know what, we will stop this phenomena. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Kuwait, your positive comments and all that. And all this will be well noted. So that is Kuwait. And I think next, followed by China, followed by Botswana, and then Djibouti. And finally, I will again call Poland. Get ready, Poland also. We have your time. And Cote d'Ivoire. And now I would like to invite China. Over to you, China.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My delegation would like to congratulate the evaluation body for its tremendous effort, hard work in examining a total of 60 submitted files this cycle and accomplishing all the work, particularly under the difficult circumstances of spreading COVID-19 pandemic. We highly appreciate the expertise of the evaluation body and its efforts to maintain consistency of its evaluation job within this cycle and also with previous committee and evaluation institutions. And we believe that this has sent out very positive signal and very helpful guidance to all the states parties for their preparation of nominations and has resulted in the improving quality of nomination files, as well as those positive aspects highlighted in the reports. At the same time, in this report, we have noticed that the evaluation body has also pointed out many of the recurring issues and challenges, such as the monitoring and follow-up of those inscribed elements, participation and involvement of communities concerned in the whole process of safeguarding. As we can recall, many of the issues and challenges have been discussed, debated, and touched upon during the expert meetings, the open-ended intergovernmental working group meetings of the Global Reflection on the Listing Mechanisms, which is launched this year with the support from and with the assistance of the Secretary. Turn into early outcomes in terms of the possible amendments to the operational directives to be reviewed by the committee at this session and the coming General Assembly of the Convention next year. For this, we believe the work of the evaluation body has made its due variable contributions. And once again, we would like to thank the evaluation body for its wonderful job. And we look forward that the evaluation body would make continuous contributions to the following, the coming evaluation work for the coming cycles. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, China, for your comments. And now I invite Botswana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, of course. Please go ahead.
We'll join others in commending the evaluation body for its work, despite the difficult circumstances that they have been working under, posed by the pandemic. We also support the statement made by Kuwait and a few other countries. Chair, we appreciate that the number of 60 files does seem high, but are there many alternatives to addressing the backlog? Some proposals have been made today and perhaps they deserve further study. We also appreciate that almost 60% of the files were approved by the evaluation body. However, we regret that over 50% of the files from Africa were either rejected or referred. This, of course, further demonstrates the necessity to increase the capacity of Africa to prepare these files. Again, some alternatives have been suggested by members, which can be looked at further, but we should not lose sight of the fact that we need to safeguard the living heritage of the continent that is regarded as the cradle of humankind. We also continue to call for the strengthening of the Secretariat to deal with the increased workload. We thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, next, I would like to invite Djibouti. Over to you, Djibouti.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, je voudrais remercier le rapporteur de l'organe d'évaluation et l'organe d'évaluation pour l'excellent travail qu'il a fait en des périodes difficiles. Monsieur le Président, nous sommes en train de parler de la Convention de 2003, qui est normalement la Convention pour l'inclusivité et non pas l'exclusivité. Elle est l'organe par essence qui parle de la diversité. C'est-à-dire quand nous parlons de la diversité, nous parlons de l'universalisme. Nous parlons de l'UNESCO. Monsieur le Président, hier, ma ministre, en prenant la parole, avait remercié le Japon qui fait un travail formidable. Cependant, Monsieur le Président, aujourd'hui, ce matin, au bureau, en notre qualité du président, vice-président représentant le groupe Afrique, nous avons soulevé quelques questions. C'est-à-dire, si vous voulez nous faire taire et qu'on ne dise pas, ça ne pourra pas se passer. Nous avons le droit de partager avec les autres États membres nos frustrations. Nous avons également très bien dit, Monsieur le Président, que nous n'allons pas toucher au Gentleman Agreement. Nous avons demandé aux États membres de retirer leurs files, ceux qui ont été rejetés. Mais, Monsieur le Président, je vois là maintenant un groupe d'amis venir refuser que l'on puisse discuter. Alors, on fait quoi? Si on ne peut pas discuter entre nous, on est des États membres, nous sommes là pour améliorer. Monsieur le Président, j'entends certains disent on est impressionné par la diversité du PCI. Moi, je voudrais savoir, Monsieur le Président, sur les 1300 files inscrits, combien reviennent à l'Afrique? Combien reviennent à l'Asie? Combien reviennent à l'Europe? C'est un travail à faire, Monsieur le Président. Quand j'entends, Monsieur le Président, qu'on me dit ne pas augmenter le nombre de files, mais Monsieur le Président, aujourd'hui, sur les 60, il n'y en a que 5 qui vont passer du côté de l'Afrique, plus 2 après le referral. C'est moins de 50%. D'autres régions, Monsieur le Président, vont avoir 99%, un seul file rejeté. Vous voulez qu'on parle chiffres? On demande au secrétariat de nous donner des chiffres. Monsieur le Président, la discussion jaillit la lumière. Or, si on refuse la discussion, on n'avancera pas. Vous savez où est-ce qu'on va aller? On va aller vers le comité sur le patrimoine. C'est ce qu'on veut éviter d'arriver. We have to be very careful. We are between member states, we are between friends, and if we close the discussion, because some are happy as it is, some might not be happy. I'm really sorry to confess it, but the way I see it, that you want to, everybody that I've heard so far is willing to close the debate. We can't close the debate. We have to discuss between people who want to safeguard this committee and this convention and to love this convention. We are a lover. For example, my own country, is a first time presenting an element. But we are not going to open it. We will wait for the next time. But we have still to ask ourselves, what is happening? Why do we have less than 50% of the African file accepted and 50% rejected? Now, Monsieur le Président, on dit qu'on ne peut pas et on ne doit pas dépasser les 60. C'est sur quelle charte c'est écrit ça? C'est où? C'est nous-mêmes qui donnons les... Ce n'est ni la Bible ni le Coran. Excusez-moi. C'est à nous de trouver le bon équilibre. Ou sinon, Monsieur le Président, allez, on va faire une autre proposition. Pourquoi ne pas accepter de files venant de groupes qui en ont beaucoup et laisser à ceux qui n'ont pas de files pour au moins rattraper un peu l'équilibre ou le déséquilibre? C'est une question également. Monsieur le Président, s'il faut parler d'UNESCO, je suis désolé, mais ce n'est pas mon genre, ce n'est pas l'Eurosco, c'est l'UNESCO. C'est l'universalisme. C'est tout le monde, c'est tous les États, c'est tout ce qui représente. Donc, faisons, je vous prie, je vous en prie, faisons preuve d'un peu de réflexion intellectuelle pour qu'on puisse trouver une solution à des questions qui existent. Sinon, demain, on arrivera et on sera face au mur. Et il appartient au comité de prendre ses responsabilités. Parce que si on continue tel qu'on est, ce qu'on appelle le gap ou le divide gap va encore s'agrandir. Et l'Afrique se retrouvera avec un pourcentage d'1% d'éléments inscrits. Ce n'est pas parce que nous n'avons pas d'éléments inscrits. Ce n'est pas parce que nos éléments sont mauvais. C'est parce que peut-être nous n'avons pas les capacités de les présenter. Parce que peut-être que les rapports doivent être présentés soit en français, soit en anglais. Ce ne sont pas nos langues maternelles. Vous voulez qu'on le présente ce soir, en Somalie?
Yes, Djibouti, thank you very much. We have well noted all your comments. We appreciate your comments and thank you very much. The time is passing, so there are two other countries waiting. Yeah, after lunch we can even, I can give you again the time for you after lunch. So just there are two countries. Anyway, I must thank Djibouti for all the comments and well noted and appreciate that. Okay, I will just go to Poland. Okay. I think, yes, I think now the time is 1:14, a little bit hungry. So therefore, we will stop now. Thank you very much for all the comments. And we will allow you to give comments after lunch. And therefore, Mr. Enkelada is also with us, and he will answer all of you, right? Yes, so after lunch. So that's all. Yes. Yeah, so therefore, dear colleagues, according to our timetable, we are going to pause for 1 hour break. So I look forward to seeing you again at 2:15 p.m. in Paris time, so that we can begin the examination of item 8A. So before taking this pause, I would like to ask the Secretariat to highlight a side event that will shortly be taking place online via Zoom. Over to you, Mr. Curtis.
Thank you. Just to remind participants from 1:40 p.m. to 2 p.m. there is the UNESCO MOOC on Living Heritage and Sustainable Development event taking place online via Zoom. Registration for this event is available on the calendar of events page located on the dedicated page for the 16th session of the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much, and we will meet after lunch.